It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I had the privilege to interview the Texas A&M Commerce head softball coach, Coach Brittany Miller. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college softball?
I actually grew up, my dad was a high school coach. And so I grew up with in a family that was all about coaching. And so when I graduated from University of Iowa, I really didn't know I wanted to go into coaching. I really didn't know what direction I wanted to go. I was actually driving to the pro league and I got a phone call from Darren Mueller at North Dakota State, and he was talking about being able to be a grad assistant there with them. And so decided that I was going to go up to North Dakota and be a grad assistant, and kind of figure it out from there. And I guess I haven't looked back since.
Of course, what was that like getting to be a pitcher for Iowa?
It was awesome. Putting on the black and gold is something that you take pride in, and playing with Gail Blevins and just being able to be a Hawkeye is it's an honor and a privilege. And so definitely not something you take lightly. California girl that was, moved into the Midwest. I'd never thought that would happen. But again, it was a real honor to be able to put those colors on.
Of course, what was that like getting to represent Iowa and getting to represent the softball program?
Um, it was a privilege. I mean, Gail Blevins is one of the best coaches in our sport. She's a legend. And so to be able to play under her and be able to represent a university like Iowa is definitely a privilege. I had awesome teammates and coaches around me. So to be able to have that experience is incredible.
How was your experience like getting to be a pitcher and being a leader?
I started pitching kind of late in my career. So my dad never wanted me to be a pitcher because he knew that pitchers had to have the right mindset, the mind space, the mentality. He didn't really want me to have to deal with being a pitcher. And so I kept pushing and prodding. And finally in 8th grade, I was able to start competitively pitching. And so through high school, I just continued to grow and didn't really know that I wanted to do that in college. And just when I had that opportunity and the success that I was having, it was awesome to be able to have that opportunity at Iowa. They were the first people coaching staff to write me a handwritten letter. And so that stuck with me. I was getting recruited by a lot of top programs, and that stuck with me. It was a family atmosphere, and to be able to pitch for Gail Blevins was definitely an honor.
Of course, what were some of your biggest accomplishments as a softball player?
As a team, we got to postseason 3 of the 4 years that I was there. We were definitely in the running within Michigan and Northwestern and Ohio State at the time. I broke records as a pitcher, strikeout records and other records there, but it was really just the overall experience that was awesome.
Of course, what was that feeling like getting to break records, and do you still hold those records at Iowa to this day?
Yes, I still hold those records at Iowa. It's a different experience. I missed half of the games in my sophomore season due to injury, and still being able to accomplish what I accomplished was, a good coaching, good mindset, and solid teammates around me, because without them around me, I would not have been able to break a lot of those records. So it's good over all the way around.
Of course, being an alumni now, what is that like getting to see those future pitchers of Iowa get to almost break your records?
You always want the people behind you to do bigger and better things, right? And so it's fun. It was fun to watch them in the NISC tournament this last couple weeks ago, and winning that and seeing what they've been able to accomplish and under Coach Gillespie. So it's fun to watch. You always want them to learn and grow and be better than you were, because that just means the program's still going in the right direction.
How is it like coming out of college and getting to become a grad assistant for North Dakota State?
It's an honor. I mean, there's a lot of people that leave their playing careers and get the opportunity to coach. And I think sometimes it's hard because being a grad assistant, you're still pretty close in age. And so it's learning how to adapt and understand how to teach. When you're normally the doer, you just want them to do it and do it how you are doing it. And so it was definitely a humbling experience because I had to learn how to communicate, how to accomplish things that I was able to accomplish. And so it was humbling, but it was fun and rewarding at the same time.
Of course, what was that transition like from going from being a grad assistant to then getting that full-time assistant coaching job at?
I was fortunate enough that the mentors that I had with Darren Mueller and Jamie Traxel, they gave me pretty much free reign with the pitchers, obviously with their guidance and their help along the way. But it was a pretty smooth transition because I was able to work with them pretty much the whole year on my own anyways. And so when I got the assistant, it just meant that I had more responsibilities in the office and as far as recruiting goes. So
What was your experience like getting to coach in the Summit League and getting to go to the Summit League Championship and then to the NCAA tournament?
I was able to learn a lot from Jamie and Darren. And so that really helped shape and mold how I was going to be as far as coaching goes in the collegiate level, at the collegiate level. And so being able to compete in the Summit League and, be able to accomplish the things that we were able to accomplish. We had student athletes that were grinders. They wanted to go out, they wanted to work, they had the right mentality. They wanted to outwork people. And they knew they had less than a lot of other schools and programs, but that didn't matter. And so it's really just creating that championship mindset that we really tried to focus on as we were going through the Summit League and winning championships and being able to go to that postseason and really not talking about getting there, but doing things when we get there and accomplishing things when we get there.
What was your experience like at Loyola Marymount?
It was different going back to California. I never thought I'd go back to California. But I did. And it's a different animal. So we went from traveling all the time, being in the Midwest for the last however long, and then going to the West Coast where we didn't travel as much. And so I was home a lot more. My kids didn't really know what to do with that. My husband didn't know what to do with that. But as far as coaching goes, it's the same thing. Like you still are trying to find ways to motivate and get student athletes to understand that if you can control your mind and your mindset, then you can do whatever you need to do in order to be successful.
Of course, as a coach, what was that transition like from going from the California to then Texas and coming to Texas Tech?
We were in the middle of the pandemic, and so it was a pretty easy decision for our family to be able to go to Texas because they had a lot of things open. And our older kids were in sports and involved in sports. So as a family, it just made sense. Going back to the Big 12 was obviously different challenges. But again, it's the stepping stones to get to where you are today. And so I wouldn't change it. We've, met a lot of great people along the way, but again, from the coaching standpoint, you're just continuing to find the athletes that have the right mindset as you continue to move forward and walk the walk as a coach.
Of course, what were some of the things that you learned at Texas Tech as an assistant coach to then help you to make that jump to be one day to become a head coach?
I think you never really know if being a head coach is what you really want. I always said I didn't know if I wanted to be a head coach, so I didn't know if I wanted that responsibility that a head coach has as far as being a Division I head coach. And so as an assistant, I was fortunate enough that all the head coaches that I've worked under gave me more responsibilities as time went on. And so I feel like I was well-rounded as a coach in order to make that jump to come to Texas A&M Commerce.
Of course, what was that feeling like coming to Texas A&M Commerce and becoming the head coach?
It was exciting. I was very fortunate that Eric Coleman saw something in me and vision aligned with what I wanted and what the university wanted as far as the program and the direction that we were going to go in as we transitioned from Division II to Division I. It was exciting. They were very successful at Division II, and to get the responsibility of upholding that same standard in Division I, it's not something that I took lightly, and I was up for the challenge. And it was really exciting. We had 5 people on the roster when I took over, so I had a lot of recruiting to do and a lot of pieces of the puzzle to fill. But it was exciting. It was a really successful year, and just overall really proud of where we are.
Of course, as a softball coach and a head coach, what was that transition like from going from Division II to then making that jump to the Division I level?
Since we didn't play in the Division II, we just played Division I competition this year. And so getting the mindset of the team as a whole to be able to say, okay, this is what we've been able to accomplish. This is what we're going to do as we move forward. We put them in position to play. I think this year we played 19 of the teams that have made it to the playoffs between the NCAA and the NISC tournament. So we put them in a position to actually see what Division I top talent looks like and where we're going, because we're not just trying to survive in our conference. We really want to be able to see we're out of this transition to go to postseason and have those opportunities and feel like we belong against those top teams.
As a head coach, what was that feeling like the first time you got to step onto the Texas A&M Commerce softball field?
It's different. You step out there and you know that you have to uphold the vision. And our field and our complex is super nice. We have blue turf in the infield, which is different. And so it looks different, it feels different. It's exciting. It's something that you don't take for granted.
What does a typical game day look like for you as the head coach versus for your softball players?
A lot of preparing. So me and my assistant, our student managers, a lot of communication about what the game plan is going to be, what direction we're going to go, how we're going to sub people in and out. We said from day one that it was going to take everybody. So it was really trying to figure out the puzzle for that particular game. And so we really had a lot of conversations leading up to the players getting to the field and starting their warm up.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've built for the softball program?
We want it to be family oriented. We want everybody to feel like they have a voice within the program. Obviously, understanding our roles as players, our student managers, our support staff, coaching staff, but really we want to understand we're working backwards, championship mindset backwards. We're not just going to jump in and say, oh, we're going to go win, but we got to take those steps and work the process in order to get there. So we're definitely working championship mindset backwards and creating this family atmosphere where we can trust each other, respect each other, and understand that we can have those tough conversations. We can hold each other accountable, but know that we're taking steps and working that process to really move forward.
Of course, who are some of the teams in your conference that you compete against?
We compete against McNeese, Southeastern Louisiana, Lamar, Houston Christian, drawing a blank on Corpus Christi. So those are a few of the teams that we got to compete against.
Of course, what is that feeling like having those teams like Corporate Christie come to home versus going to Lamar or Corporate Christie to play away?
We always like home games, and we didn't have very many of them this year because of our schedule. But it's always fun to be at home when you have your atmosphere, your field that you get to practice on all the time. But then it's always nice when you go on the road and you're getting heckled, or you got the other fans that you have to deal with, and you have to learn how to stay within yourself and be where your feet are and not worry about what everybody else around you is trying to do or say and how they're trying to distract you. And so it's a good balance. Everybody likes to play at home, but sometimes the best games are when you're away and you have to really understand what you're trying to do and what your process is and be able to keep everybody else out of your head.
Of course, with Texas being such a big state, what is that like getting to travel inside the state of Texas to go play softball?
It's different. When you're in Texas, you can go, I'm sorry, you can go 20 miles or you can go 7 hours and still be in the state of Texas. So it was interesting to see just our travel. We were in Texas, like, where are we going? How far is that? So it is different because you're traveling for a long time and you're still in the same state.
Of course, what does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to play collegiate softball?
It's changed quite a bit, the recruiting process, and it's continuing to evolve. It's really about identifying what your strengths are and what you're looking for as the team culture and what the school has to offer, what the coaches have to offer. I think it's more materialistic now in what things we're getting, or the facilities that we have. So it's really, as people are going through the recruiting process, it's really finding the right fit, not necessarily the right school by the front of the name on the front of their jersey, but the program that's going to fit their best needs as a student athlete.
Of course, as a head coach, what are some of the things that you look at in those prospective student athletes?
Well, people that have the right mindset, that want to work, have good character, that continue to want to grow and aren't stuck in their ways. Recruiting becomes more challenging as we try to identify, because everybody can see the top talent, that's no question. But what's your character look like? And are you going to fit within our team and our culture? There's not, sometimes you have just as talented kid, but they really don't want to go to your school. And sometimes you get caught up in trying to talk them into it, but ultimately you want the kids that want to be in your program and at your school. We're in a small town, so you're not going to get a city kid that wants to stay in the city. I can do all the talking I want, but ultimately when they get here, you want them to be happy. And we're in a small town, so student athlete coming from the city is probably not going to be as happy as someone who's from a small town, understands that small town living. So you got to just really go through and do your homework as a head coach and as a coach in general to make sure that you're finding those kids that do fit that culture and the school and program that you're trying to build.
Of course, as a coach, when it comes to the recruitment process, what is it like getting to recruit those in-state Texas people versus going and getting to go to different states like North Carolina, South Carolina to recruit players to come to Texas?
I think it's just, again, it goes back to the fit. We can go out of state to find student athletes, and we do. We'll go recruit in California. We'll go to the east. We'll get some Texas kids, but I think it's having a big picture of what you're looking for, and then finding the kids, student athletes that fit what you're looking for. So I'm not picky on where they're coming from, as long as it's going to be a good fit for our program and can be a puzzle piece for what we're trying to build.
What does that official visit look like for those prospective student athletes coming on campus to see Texas A&M Commerce?
They get to come in, they get to meet our student athletes, they get to meet, advisors and support staff. They get to have conversations with academics. They're able to get their questions asked with coaches there, with coaches not around, with admin, with our student athletes, with athletic training. They get to go out and see what a day looks like for our student athletes. They get to stay with our student athletes if they're on campus overnight. If there's sporting events going on, they get to go to a sporting event, whether it's ours or somebody else's. Typically, it's football or basketball they get to go to. And so they get the experience of what it would be like to be a student athlete, an athlete here at Commerce.
Of course, as a head coach, what is it like getting to see those freshmen put on that Commerce jersey for the first time?
Yes, it's rewarding to see them so excited. They're always excited when they're getting to put the jersey on for the first time. And now with the recruiting process, you can let them, wear a jersey while they're on their official visits and they get to have some pictures taken. Just the excitement. They're, feeling like they've accomplished, what their childhood dream was, going to play collegiate ball. And so it's rewarding. And then it's exciting to see them continue to grow as they, get to be a sophomore, junior, senior.
Of course, what is it like getting to see those seniors putting that jersey on for the last time representing the Commerce?
It's sad, but at the same time exciting because they were able to leave their mark. We had 2 seniors last year that got to leave their mark. They were big contributors this year, which is always nice as you have seniors that are contributors. And so just to see them be excited and then see what they're leaving behind and building this foundation of Division I, it was really rewarding, but also sad at the same time. They definitely did their job and they definitely molded what this is going to be in the future.
Of course, as a head coach, do you have any game day routines and rituals that you do each game?
No, not really. I learned at a young age. Sometimes I had some superstitions and I realized that it was not what I was doing. It was what my mindset was going into it. So, I mean, my biggest thing is I think we're going to beat anybody any day, regardless of what the score was before, or who we're stepping on the field with. I'm just a competitor. And so at the end of the day, my mindset's never going to change, regardless if we're practicing or we're playing. So,
What are some of your future plans for the softball program moving forward?
to be a competitor at the Division I level and within our conference. We want to be in the top half of the conference. We want to make it to conference tournament, and we're able to get out of the transition period of going into Division I. We want to make it to postseason, go to NCAA regionals. In the next 3 years, while we're still in this probation period, our goal and our vision is to go to the NISC tournament because we are eligible to make it to that tournament after conference tournament. And so that's our vision. That's where we're heading. We want to make sure that we have the right people in place as we keep moving forward that have that same mindset and that same vision.
Of course, what advice would you give those high school athletes looking to become college softball players?
Keep dreaming, keep working, work when nobody's watching because that's when you make strides. It's easy to show up to practice and be told what you have to do. It's different to be a student of the game, to watch it, watch baseball, watch softball, understand the game, understand, your position, and then go do 18, 20 minutes, 30 minutes of work on your own. I mean, 5 minutes, it doesn't matter what it is. If you can do and work on your craft and your specialty, you're going to see a big difference compared to everybody who just goes to practice and does their work.
Of course, what advice would you give those first year college athletes looking to go into collegiate softball?
Say it again. Sorry.
What advice would you give those first-year college students going into collegiate softball?
Um, don't take things for granted. Take advantage of all the opportunities. Take care of academics first. Make sure that there's, you know, no stone left unturned. Um, just because you're a freshman doesn't mean you don't get to play. So take advantage of those opportunities. Go work. Find somebody that's older or a classmate to go work, and really put in the effort because it goes by fast. People don't realize how fast it goes, but I mean, if you really think about it, you're on campus for 3 and 4 months, then you go home for a month, then you're on campus for 3 or 4 months, then you go home for the summer. And so it goes by fast, but you got to take advantage of the opportunities that you have in front of you.
What advice would you give those college softball players looking to play professionally, whether it's Athletes Unlimited, the MPF, or overseas, or even national team?
Um, I think that that's realistic when you're sitting there and you're willing to put in the work. I find that a lot of college softball players, they like the idea of being able to go and play after they're done with collegiate ball. But the ones that end up going and, playing professionally at some spot did the work on their own. They wanted to get better. They wanted to continue to grow. They became students of the game. And at the end of the day, a lot of them want to be coaches in the end. And you just have to eat, breathe softball, and really just find that you're giving back to the sport as much as the sport's given to you.
Of course, what advice would you give those softball players looking to represent the national team and make it to the Olympics?
A lot of work and making sure that you're putting yourself in the best situation, to be able to be seen and, let your actions speak for you. Because when you're out there and you're doing your job and you're being consistent with what you're doing, it makes it a lot easier as you're going in front of, a lot of other student athletes that are doing the same thing.
What advice would you give those college softball players after getting out of college softball, going into coaching and getting into the coaching role?
I think for young coaches, the biggest key is being able to walk into it with fresh eyes and not assuming that, the players that you're about to coach know what you know. I think that's where we gotta get in trouble a little bit is that we assume that they already have been taught the information that we know. And so sometimes it feels like you're going backwards a little bit because you're going over the basics. But once you go through the basics, you can go through that fairly fast to make sure that everybody's on the same page as you're moving forward. And I feel like that's when you have a lot more success as a coach because, you've touched on things that a lot of people take for granted that they already know. And we can assume that everybody had the same travel ball or the high school information given to them as they continue to move forward in their careers. So as a new coach, you just want to make sure you touch all your bases and make sure that you cover things that you know, but don't assume that they know anything.
Of course, what advice would you give those assistant coaches looking to make that jump from being an assistant to a head coach?
I think it goes back to your mindset. If you have the right mindset moving forward and you're in this because we want to see the student athletes be better, as athletes and as people, then it's pretty easy. It's the communication, building relationships. It's just like anything that you do. If you can build relationships and create a culture that, you enjoy going to every day, then the student athletes are going to enjoy it. Now, they're not going to like everything. And I think that sometimes as coaches, we want to be liked sometimes instead of doing the things that we need to do to be successful as a whole. But overall, I mean, you have to be able to adapt and understand, you're working with 20, 25 different personalities, and then you have your support staff, you have your, assistant coaches, and you're trying to balance everything out. But if you have the right mindset moving forward and into it, then we can do whatever we need to do to be successful.
What advice would you give those head coaches looking to build their own program and build their own legacy?
Just sticking to the process. And we had a lot of conversations this year as we're going, and frustration's part of it, but at the same time, had to keep reminding ourselves this is a process. We can't take huge steps. We got to take baby steps in order to work the process and get to the end result. It wasn't about going out and just being able to dominate the world this year. We had to take baby steps in order to build a foundation to be able to keep moving forward. And so it's really just sticking to your process, sticking within your own character and what you're trying to build, and not get outside of your character just because things aren't going as smoothly as we would all like them to go.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the Texas A&M Commerce softball program at?
So it's a good question. I'm horrible with social media. So I'm on Instagram. I don't post very much, but Texas A&M softball is on Instagram and Twitter.
Thank you again, Coach Brittany Miller, for your interview, and best of luck in your future as the head softball coach for Texas A&M Commerce.
Thank you.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Brittany Miller, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.